A man has been jailed for a year after an anti-Islam speech caused an emergency alarm on a Toronto subway train. It was essentially a social experiment, the man said. It went wrong. All rise, Judge Andrew Napolitano is here. Now, they've got hate speech laws in Canada. They've got hate speech laws in Europe. I suspect that there is no freedom of speech if you're talking about Islam in Canada or Europe.
Well, there's not. I'm not that familiar with Canada, but I am familiar with Europe, and hate speech is a crime in Europe, in almost all of Europe. I don't think it is in the mother country, but it certainly is in continental Europe, particularly in France. Yes. In fact, there are 5 people in jail as we speak for wearing buttons saying in French, "I am," and the last name of the murderers. Rather than "I am Charlie," it's "I am" and the last name of the murderers. That's considered hate speech, hatred of the French state.
5 of them in jail?
Yes, and they were arrested for that. So it's kind of ironic that we would see this grand march with world leaders arm in arm for freedom of speech when the country in which it is happening is suppressing free speech.
Now, theoretically, you can't have an imposition on free speech in the United States. We've got a Constitution.
We not only have a Constitution, we have a Supreme Court opinion interpreting the Constitution on hate speech, and it's a 9-0 opinion. It's a 1969 opinion, but it's been cited hundreds of times since then. It hasn't been tampered with, saying that hate speech is protected in this country. Now, again, we're not talking about fighting words where somebody threatens a fight. We're talking about someone who utters hateful statements about a human being or a class to which the human being belongs by virtue of age or gender or race.
But you can lose your job if you say certain politically incorrect things in the workplace.
You can if you are an at-will employee and the employer could show that because of your hatred it could disparage the product that the employee sells. Or in the case of people like you and me, our contract says our bosses could fire us if our words speak poorly of Fox.
Okay, I've got to get to this subject, and it's right up your street.
Because it's New Jersey.
Yeah, that's right. A man in New Jersey arrested after he refused to hand over his cell phone to a police officer. The officer claimed the man's cell phone had some evidence from a car accident on it. He was arrested. What's with this?
Well, this is outrageous, and I'm sorry that it happened in our home state. And the prosecutor said he's not going to prosecute, and the phone, in fact, has been returned. But the Supreme Court, again in a unanimous decision, very, very recent, just 2 years old, has been crystal clear. You can photograph away all you want the police in public as long as you're not interfering with their work. So if you're standing a few feet away or a few yards away, you can photograph, and the police cannot get that camera from you without a warrant.
But that's the camera. Right. Could they demand the pictures?
Absolutely not. They could with a warrant if they need to see them.
But if you've got evidence in your camera that's germane to a crime or a situation that's just happened.
Meaning if you have better evidence than the police do.
Right.
Yeah, the police would need a warrant from a judge in order to get that information from you. This is a crazy case. This is a one-car automobile accident in which the driver was himself a detective, and one of his buddies was investigating the accident, and he didn't want his friend to be embarrassed with these pictures.
I didn't know
And the person taking the pictures was a freelance photographer who works for a variety of newspapers in southern New Jersey, and they dispatch him to automobile accidents.
Okay. So the cops had a vested interest in grabbing the camera?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Well, I should have put
no
that
prosecution.
I should have put that right up front. Judge, thank you very much indeed. As always, thank you.
Pleasure.